Greetings. Today's Stompy 51 miniature adventure is going to take you on a journey beyond sight and sound to spring 1986 and a flip through a Citadel journal. And so what does spring 1986 bring us? A lovely piece of undead art, a new miniatures catalogue update, the vengeance of the Leash Master, a Warhammer scenario, and a new Chaos race, the Skaven, and indeed, in the week when they've just announced that Age of Sigmar 4 is going to be a box set of Skaven versus Stormcast Eternals. Wow. The Skaven have worn well after 38 years, albeit this journal hasn't. It is falling apart slightly. But then again, what do most people who are 38 look like? I'm sure bits start falling off them too. So we've got a little introduction from Rick Priestley, the so-called editor. Rick, exclamation mark. The quiet confidence of an early Games Workshop. The ragged assortment of pages you have before you is the New Look Citadel journal. The journal now washes cleaner and lasts longer, whilst 9 out of every 10 owners say their cats prefer it. Oh, I love, because presumably they relieve themselves on it. I think it's very funny how they had such a wicked sense of humour, or at least Rick did. I hope you appreciate the mental effort, physical toil, and considerable loss of life that has made this miraculous transformation possible. I was personally dragged, whimpering from under my desk, to write up a further Leash Master adventure. This is a follow-on. In addition, we bribed Jez Goodwood into writing about his great new Chaos Ratmen models, the Skaven. John Stallard, one of the Games Workshop's extensive network of sales managers, almost volunteered to write his article on making the best of Citadel's new plastic models. Thanks, John. P.S. You owe me 8 beers and a curry. Staff artist, in quotation marks, because why not get a drive-by insult in there, Dave Andrews required only a mild beating to turn out the card models on the inside covers. Crikey, you can't make jokes about workplace bullying like that these days. I'm sure you'll agree this is one of Dave's best yet, and hardly any blood or saliva on the drawings either. You must be loving this, he writes. So, this is like a little piece of terrain, which obviously Dave Andrews has sketched out. And because the Skaven have been introduced into the Warhammer world here, they've shown that those denizens of the night have been abroad, scribbling their little chaos runes on the side of buildings, writing, "We shall inherit, like the 12 monkeys. We did it. We the Skaven. We will inherit." Right. Yeah, well, interesting. They've got distributors around the world already in 1987. They've got a Citadel France, officially licensed though. Vengeance of the Leash Master, the Warhammer scenario by Rick Priestley. This is a follow-on to the Terror of the Leash Master. Heinrich Kemmler, oh right, so he was quite an early character. Was once a great and much feared necromancer. He was counsellor to kings and princes, scourge of his enemies, and bane of his rivals. For over a century, he wandered the old world, studying the libraries of great houses, sitting around the firesides of the common folk, learning all he could. Then little was heard or seen of Heinrich Kemmler for many years. His rivals grew to power, and there were rumours of war amongst the wizards. Everyone fell to ruin. But then Heinrich Kemmler came and cleared up. Right. And the Seer Stone, carried by Nordum of the Skaven Gracia, functions exactly as described in the Skaven brief. What's that? The Flight of the Leash Master, with all these little bits of old world geography. You've got Bretonia, the Black Mountains, Nuln and the Empire, and the Lauren Forests. So the geography was sketched out pretty early on. And look at this. That little cardboard cutout building is part of a little scenario with a Skaven coming in over here. presumably the Leash Master coming in over there, and it's all been thought through. Leash Master's turn, Skaven's turn, and the Fighting Monk and their turn, with a Games Master's brief. This is a three-cornered game between the Leash Master, the Master of Mazental, and the Skaven. Read through the entire scenario before attempting to run it. The game begins as the Leash Master arrives on the scene. Although the Skaven and the monks have already been fighting for some hours, the monastery lies partly ruined, with many sections burning uncontrollably. Whoa. Oh, I see, you don't need to have miniatures. Very nice. Oh, very clever. The Black Ark of the Covenant is a powerful weapon. Its casket can only be opened by use of the Warpstone key carried by Nordum, the Grey Seer. Nothing wrong with the Skaven version of an Old Testament piece of kit. And so let's have a closer look at some of this art, which we can do because this book is falling apart. So there's your Nordum, the Grey Seer, a couple of champions, a whole load of Skaven Ratmen, the Monk Wizard, loads of fighting monks, and then loads of undead, and they are quite beautifully sketched out. There must be a game that we could play with these at some point. And then there's a mechanical warrior who obviously looks like they're from Doctor Who, one of the Daleks, and that's quite funny. And then you've got some undead cavalry who look pretty impressive. I wonder if these can be blown up, printed on card, and used for some kind of game these days. I'm sure they could. Already some fun colouring in for your 10-year-old. Mail order. If you don't have access to a local retailer and you can't persuade your local model shop to stock our figures, you can quickly and easily obtain them from the mail order trolls. Generations of mail order troll selective breeding and conditioning has produced a team of mail order packers mindlessly devoted to carrying out your tyrannical commands to their last drop of blood. There is a kind of theme of grim violence that underlies all of this. Kids must have loved it. Regular mail orderers will be pleased to know that the electric cattle prod so kindly donated by a Mr. Giles Esquire from Devon has greatly encouraged my hotline trolls to process and send out all telephone credit card orders received before 2 p.m. that very same day. I know a guy called Giles. He gets very annoyed. Everyone always keeps making out that he's a farmer. He's actually got a double-barreled name. To the extent he is a farmer, I suspect he owns vast swathes of the northeast. But anyway, for those of you who are so impatient they can't even wait the few days it takes the Royal Mail to deliver, we could add an extra £1 and write fast dispatch so that you will get your delivery first class. And they haven't yet got that kind of 1990s troll sketch art, but he's still pretty troll-like. These are the various Citadel miniature publications out at the time, the Fantasy Battle Rules, and then the other compendiums. I believe I've got that one, but I don't have these. Right, the Jez Goodwin article about the Skaven. Throughout the cold peace of the night, the inhabitants of the old world dreamed their private dreams of life and death, of power and fear, and of the vagaries of existence. Albeit, I was listening to these podcasts about Martin Luther on the rest is history, and the sense I got was, before Martin Luther, people never really thought about the vagaries of existence. They just understood there to be the constellation of the world set out in the Old and New Testament, and that was it, and got on with their life like we do about science. And it's just a kind of a modern thing that we all think about these things, which is post-Luther. But who knows? I don't know. I just listen to what I listen to. Few, however, dream that while they sleep, the lives of others continue apace beneath their homes, under the earth, amongst the ancient sewers, drains, and workings of inhuman origin. This is the domain of the Skaven, lords of decay, the foul brood of chaos ratmen. From city to city, their passage takes them, infiltrating existing tunnels, drainage systems and ruins both above and below ground. They are the dark agents of entropy, eternally gnawing at the fabric of order so that all falls into ruin. Ruins to be fought over and ruled by the brood of Skaven and their chaotic masters, all very Black Death and rats and Middle Ages converted into fantasy. Very good. Beyond the old world and into Cathay in the east, the Skaven tunnels reach out. South into the Southlands and Araby, their net stretches from ruin to ruin, into living cities and towns and the very homes of men. Even the seas cannot stop them, and they've got all the way to Lustria and the New World, gnawing at the monuments of the old Slan. Very nice. This is a good article. The horned rat is feared and worshipped as the patron deity of the Skaven. The 13 Lords of Decay, the leaders of the Skaven and high priests of the horned rat, the Greyseers, the direct servants of the 13 Lords of Decay. Do you know, after all these years, I've never really understood and read into who and what the Skaven are. But it's all here, isn't it? Crikey, Clan Scryer, the most influential of all the Ratman clans. Warlock engineers aplenty. Clan Eshin, the Night Runners, a clan of rat assassins active amongst the cities of men. Clan Moulder, using warpstone powers to breed fell beasts from slave stock. Clan Pestilens, also known as the Plague Monks, fanatics dedicated to spreading disease and decay. And the Warlord clans are often no more than a collection of small packs or gangs, each ruled over by the strongest, largest rats. Slaves present at all levels of Skaven hierarchy, carrying out menial, dangerous tasks. They may be of any race, humans, orcs, etc., even other Skaven. They are used as troops, and for the many hazardous experiments conducted using the warpstone, they are the lowest of all in Ratman society. Their lives are brutish, painful, but mercifully short. The appearance of the Skaven. They take the form of giant rats, twisted into a parody of human shape. They are between 4 and 6 feet tall, but otherwise vary greatly depending on how much warpstone has gone into them. In Warhammer battle, Ratmen of the Warlord clans are organized into units, although they may have minor and major heroes who can function independently if required. Warpstone, its effects and uses. A single piece of raw warpstone is usually about the size of a man's fist, irregular in shape, and leads to a difficult process. Mighty wizards can control it, and any creature exposed to warpstone within the general area for a period of a day or more has a 5% chance of developing a chaos mutation. Fire throwers, already a thing. Warpstone charms. Poisoned wind is one of Clan Scryer's most famous weapons. A devastating magical wind is entrapped inside a globe of glass. The globe is produced by means of the warpstone, and small amounts can be seen inside the unbroken globe. Globes may be thrown 6 inches or smashed, releasing a sudden blast of strange gas. The effects last 1 turn only and affect everyone within 2 inches. People become helpless. On a roll of a d10, the effects are permanent. Oh, the d10 rolls. So mutations, all pretty standard even then. Prehensile tail, spikes, horns, warty skin, scaly, carapace, leprous flesh, noisome stench, and obese. Iridescent fur, that's quite funny. The creature's fur changes colour constantly depending on the light. This has a confusing effect in combat, with a -1 to hit penalty. Extra limb, no face, yuck, no 2 heads. Clan Pestilens, Clan Eshin, the Greyseers, slaves, the Skaven, looking at the functioning world of civilization and how they can tear it down. Black and white tips on how to paint your Skaven by John Blanche. Undercoating black, the way of the age. I never undercoat black. Dry brush, lining, embellishments. Nice. I mean, the models were not great, even though they were by Jez Gwyn. That one, I think, has stood the test of time, but not all of them. And that was a Skaven. Miniature magic. A miniature is just a metal casting until it's painted. How true. But only a real expert can turn that casting into a work of art. And then the Skaven range over there. And this just seems to be a bit of an updated catalogue, albeit it seems to be giving rules. These new models come from one of our most outrageously Scottish designers, Bob Naismith. They're designed to fit the Citadel slaughter bases and exploit the multi-part system in which the horses are cast in 2 pieces to cut down on weight and cost. They're very clever. And they are great models, those. They really are. And then these are loads of zombies. Many zombies. And someone has pointed out to me that even though they never had multi-part plastics, they did have an enormous variety of metal casts designed by Kev Adams. And obviously these aren't as good as his later works, but they are pretty good for 1987. Minotaurs designed by Bob Naismith, and some of these do look pretty cool. I like the look of that one. Bloodcry the Beast, they've all been given names. Would they be given names these days? Clubhorn Rune Smasher, Gristlemane Niles, Slaggut Offaltongue, and Bloodbrag Battlebreath. And the Minotaur Lord, designed by Bob Naismith, Chaos Champion of Ultimate Slaughter. The Slan there. Yeah, I don't rate these. Designed by Trisha Morrison. I mean, she's obviously a fantastic sculptor. But all of these guys, it was early days. Lobotomized humans are used by the Slan as slave troops in order to bulk out their dwindling armies. Any large army of Slan must always include at least 10% slave troops, and may include up to 50%. Slave units must always be led by a Slan, who may be an ordinary leader with basic stats, or a champion or hero. Slave units are subject to stupidity, having had their brains cut out. More miniatures. Some historical miniatures squeezed in as fantasy. Dungeons and Dragons. Who knew that they had some kind of license from Star Trek, available in the USA from the FASA Corporation? Who knew that they had, well actually I did vaguely know that they had some kind of licensing arrangement with Judge Dredd. And you've got some very entertaining looking ape men. Drastic plastic. What's this? John Stallard describes Citadel's new plastic range. A summer of '85 saw a new addition to Citadel's huge range of fantasy models in the shape of the psychostyrene dwarf. A plastic dwarf, surely not whatever next. The answer to this last question is an orc, with more releases planned for 1986. And why not indeed? The initial models have proven extremely popular with gamers and collectors alike. The different heads and weapons enable the modeler to build a huge number of unique models with which to form a dwarf regiment and now an orc rabble, with masses of variation, and all, critically, at a reasonable cost. The psychostyrene dwarf will cost you 75p. So they weren't cheap even then. And then we come to a page entitled Rogues Gallery, with some pretty low quality photos, but great fun. Ailey Morrison, presumably, and Jez Goodwin meet Tortellini and Dirty Harry Tagliatelle at a cinema near you from Friday. Obviously trying to mock some kind of movie that's come out at the time. John Blanche, the young one, pictured in a vain attempt to prove he actually does some work around here, which I suspect they could only have made as a gag if it were wholly untrue, and he was very diligent. Bob Naismith, the original sharp-dressed man, auditions for ZZ Top. I don't even know who ZZ Top is. He must have been a pop star or something. Tony Ackland, visualising just how small a space Rick Priestley could be fitted in, which is a joke, I think, because here there's a picture of Rick Priestley, explains how small his previous office was with his hands. Mean and moody, or just locked out of the office again, clockwise from the front, Ailey Morrison, Trish Morrison, Bob Naismith, Brian Ansell, and Jez Goodwin. I think that's quite a famous photo. I'm sure that gets put out a lot. Charles Elliott, Chaz Elliott, the paragon of unfettered joy and enthusiasm. I mean, look, it was a day before digital cameras, so, you know, you couldn't just take 15 pics until the person actually smiled properly. And then Michael and Alan Perry. Or is it Michael and Alan Perry, Alan and Michael Perry, making a joke about the fact they are obviously twins? Is there a brain? Does anybody know? I suspect these are all gags written by Rick Priestley, the only person who could get away with these things. And then we come to a little comic strip, The Quest of Caleb Dark, which seems to suggest that they've got rid of the Chaos Dogs, but another little insidious threat lingers below, with a little skitter, stab, Skaven meandering about, who come up from the depths, kill everyone, have a beautifully sketched out punch-up, and then rush around, inspired by their horned rat god, with Caleb Dark, the presumably dark elf, running around and making everyone think they need to rush out and buy lots and lots of the new Skaven miniatures. Very cleverly thought through little journalists, I must say. Rick Priestley and John Stallard and that lot really knew what they were doing. All very, very innovative for its time, if you consider this is really quite pioneering. But of course, are the Skaven beaten? Fire throw, kill. Malal's breath, warp flame, I am undone. Next, evil of the warpstone. So we don't yet know if he's going to manage to get rid of the Skaven. And of course, you can go out and buy Caleb Dark if you've been sufficiently inspired. And he is quite a good model. Look at that. The Eternal Champion by Michael Moorcock. What are these? Just more random elven miniatures. I had that guy. I wish I hadn't got rid of him. I mean, he didn't have a very good pistol. He looked like a kind of 1970s Doctor Who. I don't think I'll ever come across that ever again. I mean, that was a pretty rare thing to have. Competition from the churning bowels of the lava lakes of Hades. A great chaos demon proffers 3 mighty helms. We invite you to complete each hellish helmet by drawing in your own crest. Remember, the winning entry will be worn by a warrior of chaos, a sheer epitome of evil and vileness. Send your completed drawing in full colour or black and white to Chaos Helmet Competition in Nottingham. A Chaos Battle Banner Competition. Wow, look at that. Our Chaos Battle Banner Competition elicited the usual rabid response from our uniquely twisted readership. Once we'd cleaned off the saliva, tomato sauce and guano from your entries, it was immediately obvious it was going to be hard choosing the best. But wow, look at this. And the winner is Colin Dixon of Swanwick with a supreme rendition of a Chaos Harpy. I mean, look at that. That is real artistic talent. It does look like something from Malifaux, actually. Decades before its time. And a man who can really actually draw. Look at that. No wonder they gave him a bit of a job. And then these are the other entries, which are pretty impressive and creative. Wouldn't it be fun to just print some of these out, get them colour photocopied and just stick them onto your Chaos Hordes? I might well do that. The Chaos Death Roadshow is coming. That's Kev Adams, who always looks slightly shocked in all the photos. Dragon Meat 86. Birmingham New Imperial Hotel, London Royal Horticultural Society Old Hall, and the Sheffield Royal Victoria Hotel, with painting competitions and trade stands and people bashing each other around as knights. The Reader's Art Gallery, with some pretty impressive sketches. Crikey, there was a lot of talent around even with the smaller community. The Eldritch Epistles. I mean, they had a lot of knowledge, these guys. I mean, isn't the word epistle something to do with, the gospel period and people writing letters, epistle to this lot and epistle to that lot? Eldritch Epistles is, as if you didn't know, our letters column, in which you get to have your say about Citadel models and games. I'm a bit squashed for space this issue. Brian Ansell is forcing me to work in the cupboard because I laughed at his tie. So, on with your letters. Dear Sirs, I have been wargaming for the last 8 years and am writing to express my admiration for the simple yet novel ideas your staff come up with. I enjoyed all your scenarios and your psychostyrene dwarfs, which I've tried modelling. They are simple to put together and paint, and most importantly, I can afford them. The only problem is that there aren't enough. Keep pulping the stunties. Most of our ideas are unpublishable, many illegal, and almost all antisocial, but it's still nice to be appreciated. Heavy human cavalry. Have to think on that one. Has anyone out there got any good scenarios with heavy cavalry? The only remedy for not having enough dwarves is to buy more. That collector gene was still prevalent even then. Dear Citadel, I've just bought, played and enjoyed Blood-Bastard Orc's Drift. If necessary, pump out more. Use the thumbscrews on Joe Dever, Gary Chalk and Ian Page. Joe, Gary and Ian seem to be very busy writing and illustrating game books these days, and very good ones too. So don't worry about that. There will be lots of hirsute northern barbarian types, caber tossing and such like. Dear Eldritch, I am pleased to see you're producing even tougher and better detailed dwarfs. Do Citadel still produce the Spacefarers and Galactic Grenadier models advertised in your old catalogues? Yes, we'd all like to see more dwarfs, and we're hoping that Mike and Alan Perry will work that out. The Spacefarers and Galactic Grenadier molds are long gone, I'm afraid, so we won't be seeing any more of those. Both ranges are now very old-fashioned in design, and they are very crude by modern standards. These were Ral Path models, which we made under license. If you want science fiction models, I suspect you hang on for Bob Naisber's forthcoming, utterly awesome Space Marine box set! And then loads more about how everyone is raving about the cheap-ish dwarves. Would you please tell me, are you going to make many more Citadel colour paints? There aren't enough colours. No dark red, for example. At the moment, I mix them all with Pelican Plucker, which is expensive because the jars are so large. Well, I can't believe that Citadel paints were ever the budget option. But they do last a long time and the paint is very good. Can we have more photos in the journal, please? How about a step-by-step photo article on how John Blanche paints? A new selection of Citadel colour paint is on its way. Meanwhile, continue to mix existing colours with any other water-based paint. Plucker is good paint and provides some of the most useful shades you can find anywhere, especially in green and blue. You can often find the remaining lines of Plucker being sold cheap. A photo of John Blanche is the public ready for that kind of thing. How to assemble the Monastery of Mazental. I'm not sure why this is at the back as well. It was at the front end. Maybe these are the stats for all the characters in it. And we're left with a picture of a flying rat assassin fighting a warrior monk. And alas, I don't have the back page because someone cut it off. It may have had a building on it. And I think we'll call it there. Thank you very much for watching to the end. Please do leave any comments because it's great fun to respond when I'm out and about, and do subscribe to see more because I do actually have a number of other of these oldie worldy journals and magazines floating about, which I'm very happy to share with the wider community. So keep well, keep safe, and I hope to see you around here soon.